Are seeing divergence from like the concept of an investor. This is what people want. This will become the norm.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Tech Times exclusive. Today, we're talking to Nick Saponaro, who is the CEO and co-founder of Divi. What Divi is, they accelerate, or they are accelerating the adoption of cryptocurrency into our everyday lives, trying to make it more mainstream and maybe debunk some of the myths. So here to tell us about that today is Nick. Thanks for joining us, Nick.
Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So yeah, with cryptocurrency, as in the last couple of years, has really made its way to center stage in a lot of conversations. And I would like for you to tell us, give us a little background and maybe describe your journey into how you were introduced and how you became interested in cryptocurrency.
Yeah, I mean, I'll keep it brief, as brief as I can. It's not a totally unique story. I was introduced to it early on. I was building computers back in the day, and I was starting to build some mining rigs for people. Kind of got interested in what exactly I was building for people. Mined some Bitcoin, threw the Bitcoin away, just like many of us have. But later on down the road, I was introduced to Ethereum actually, and that actually became my first play in crypto. A buddy of mine had met Joe Lubin actually in New York at some networking event or party or something, and he was adamant that I invest in this thing, Ethereum. I really didn't understand what it was. I am a developer by trade, so I was doing mostly freelance websites and stuff. Nothing crazy at the time, definitely not blockchain. So I actually met a guy at a mall and bought some Bitcoin off of him, and there's no Coinbase or anything yet. So that's how I actually got my first Ethereum. Right, I bought the Bitcoin, went to an exchange it for Ethereum, and I kind of got into it, but I kind of wasn't like super into it yet. I was still a little bit like, what is this thing? And then it started to go up a lot. It was like 80 cents when I bought it, went up to like $20 by the time the DAO and all of that stuff was going all crazy with its hype cycle. The DAO got hacked, and I got sour on crypto for a while. Didn't really involve myself with it too much. And then a buddy of mine was out of the bar, and he's like, "Hey man, we've been investing in this Ethereum thing. You should really get into it." And I was like, "That thing? I thought that was a scam, Yeah. And he's like, "No, well, we bought it at 60 and it's at 80 right now." And I was like, "What?" So, that kind of re-sparked my interest in it. But leaving the speculative nature of it behind and actually starting to learn more about what the technology was, and reading more books about it. Mastering Bitcoin is one of my favorite books to this day. And actually getting into the development side of it and understanding what the technology can do for people is what really brought me into the space.
Oh, okay, yeah. I think a lot of people can relate. Like you said, it's not a very unique story. Me personally, I don't know how many times people have reached out to me and was like, "I want you to invest," and I had the same thought, man. I don't know this. Kind of, they're like, "No, you can make this amount of money," and then like I was in the military for a while, so after military, a lot of my friends, within the last 4 or 5 years, I think, really got into it, and they're trying to pull people in, and it's very scary. So what
can be.
Yeah, it can be. Well, it's scary, I think, to the uneducated.
Yeah.
Right. So like you said, mastering Bitcoin is probably a good place to start if you really want to educate yourself. And because I feel like there's a time in most people's lives where, you start to look to invest, maybe not so much in your, late teens, early 20s or mid 20s even, or maybe even 30s, hell. But there's a time certainly when people start to say, I want to invest. I want to invest here. I want to invest there, but you don't know. So you don't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people, you see all these people claiming to make these huge gains, and a lot of people are making huge gains. which sparks your interest in it.
Right.
But I feel like there's a lot of trends right now where people are just kind of throwing money, and it's more like gambling. Whereas there is a fundamental aspect to cryptocurrency. That's what really the OGs invested in the beginning, you know, whether it was the freedom or the sovereignty of owning your own money and things like that, or just a sound monetary policy or whatever the case might have been at that time. I feel like it's really still important to educate yourself on those things. Whereas a lot of people are just like, oh, I'm just going to hop into the latest dog meme coin or whatever, because somebody said that was something. But I think however you get into it, whether it's NFTs or meme coins or whatever, I think a lot of people do start to, okay, I've done this. Let me learn a little bit about how this is actually working, and it's bringing a lot of new people to space, which is great.
Right. Well, I think that leads perfectly into our next topic, which is what really, you know, it's one thing to be inspired to invest. You know, that's you know, a lot of people, like I said, you know, a lot of people become inspired to invest. But what inspired you to pursue this as, you know, on a company basis, to co-found a company and really focus on cryptocurrency?
It's interesting because I was brought into the Divi project actually as a freelance developer. I was just coming out of school for software development, computer science, stuff like that. And a buddy of mine hit me up and he said, do you want this website for this crypto that we're working on? And I was excited about it. So, you know, I had already been investing in it and learning about it. So I was excited to contribute to something like that. And I actually was able to, I came in a little bit after they had started the project, but started to contribute to the white paper and things like that. And they offered me the co-founder, you know, position. And I jumped at the chance because I really, really enjoyed the concept that the philosophy that they were building. At the time, back in 2016, when this was really starting to come into the fold, and really 2017 when we launched the token sale, it was really still difficult. You know, going through an ICO and getting your MetaMask and like figuring out the contract address and all these things were really complex. And starting to earn with crypto, whether you're trying to mine or trade or run a node or whatever it was, all very, very difficult. And that's what Divi was trying to pursue the solution to. And that really attracted me because I was like, okay, I'm a developer and even this is hard for me, you know?
Right.
So imagine in 5-10 years when people are actually starting to come into this industry, how hard it's still going to be for them. The companies that build the solutions that make it easy to adopt and accessible, familiarize, those types of things will be the biggest companies in the space. And that's what Divi was trying to work on. And that's what we've continued to work on this whole time. And that's what really, you know, drew my passion, you know?
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, when you explain it like that, it makes perfect sense, you know, because, you know, from, you know, your personal experience, like it's extremely complex, and, you know, just understanding the whole thing for, you know, 9 to 5, you know, Joe Schmo would be like, you know, I want to, but I don't know. So you guys are pretty much providing this bridge between, you know, not knowing and at least being able to understand. I feel like things like this for a majority of the population, it really needs to be broken down almost like, you know, no offense to anyone, but almost like dummy style. You know what I mean? Like the simplest.
Right. But it's like, do we need to break it down, or do we need to make it more familiar to people and more accessible? And that's kind of where our philosophy, if we can make the user experience to where the blockchain is in the background, you don't really even have to understand. I mean, of course, we want people to understand. We
Right.
bring those educational resources, but people got 9 to 5 jobs, man. Let's be real. People aren't going to read Mastering Bitcoin necessarily, right? It's just not realistic. You have to draw them in by saying, hey, this is easy enough. This is secure enough. It feels like something you've already used. You know, you can get started here and feel comfortable without the anxiety. And that's kind of our philosophy from a user experience perspective.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. So I've seen that kind of I don't know, maybe the mission, I don't know what the correct term is here for Divi, but like you guys really want to, you know, like you said, accelerate the adoption, but at the same time create a more fair or a fairer market as far as currency goes. Could you maybe explain that a little better?
Yeah, so it's all about bringing accessibility to everyone everywhere, right? You have people all over this world, and we're seeing it. Actually, probably the perfect example is El Salvador, what's going on down there. right? You have all of these people that have no access to banking, the country that is being put under the thumb of the United States dollar, the IMF, all of these big centralized bodies that essentially federate another country, right? Because they have to use this reserve currency that they do not federate themselves. They're beholden to the structures and the mandates of literally another country that's 1,000 miles away.
Right.
So you start to see that, okay, now the president of El Salvador, he sees the benefit in cryptocurrency to bring that to his people, to give them the opportunities that are afforded by accessible financial services, right? So we wanted to do that as well, right? We want to bring this easy to use ecosystem that anyone can access, that's borderless, still secure, and reliable to everyone everywhere. And we even have plans to bring it to places where data is really difficult to access. Because honestly, banking is one thing, but data access is another, right? You go to Ghana, you go to the Dominican Republic, these are like data deserts where you're paying $40, $50 a megabyte for 3G service, which is 2 generations outdated service. So we have plans to work with companies to bring those types of things, that kind of infrastructure to those people so that they can access these financial services as well. Because you have to have the internet for Bitcoin, and you have to have the internet for Divi and all cryptocurrencies, right?
Okay, so yeah, you bring that up, and it's a really good point, and I think it's an aspect that most people don't really consider. The World Bank, and we all have our opinions on what goes on with the World Bank, and all that good stuff. But we won't get into that. This is we're more on tech than conspiracies. That's another podcast for another day. But I mean, I guess you could imagine, like, eventually, if you guys start to really I don't say kick up dust. And this is a little off topic, but it did pop into my mind. I feel like you guys may be susceptible to because you're essentially competing with World Bank. Like, you're circumventing their system that has made them, billionaires over the last 200 years or whatever it's been. So, there could be ramifications, maybe is the right word to use. Like,
Well, we're starting to see that. Right. I mean, we're seeing the crackdown already. Mm-hmm. Even IMF tried to crack down on El Salvador. We're starting to see the SEC crack down on companies here in the United States. But it's that old, I think it was Gandhi or whatever, who said, like, first they ignore you, then they doubt you, then they fight you, then you win, or something like that. Right. They're fighting us right now. We're on the fighting stand portion of this process, and they're going to fight it. But you see that they also realize that they can't defeat it. Right. They have tried. It's too late to defeat. If they had started, 6, 7 years ago to try to defeat it, they might have succeeded. But now it's too far. You have big institutions investing. You have huge tech companies investing in Bitcoin and leveraging the ecosystems that are created by these cryptocurrencies and blockchain projects. It's not going to happen. So now, like in the US, they've implemented this task force to try to figure out how they're going to regulate stable coins. Right. Because it's like, well, we can't destroy it.
Right.
Now we can fight it, but we have to find a way to live with it as well. So while there's the battle ahead, it's not a losing battle. It's actually a pretty significant part of the process. It shows maturity.
Right. Very true. Yeah, I see this being one of those, if you can't beat them, join them type scenario. But there's nothing we
pretty
can,
much.
And of course, they will come to the realization, if they haven't already, that you're not going to, they're not going to push you out. So the next logical step for anyone would be to think, well, how do we profit from this?
Exactly.
So you just have to, like the word here, adopt. They'll just have to adopt the reality that cryptocurrency is here to stay. And then you see these. It was a little mind-boggling for me, and it's really kind of when I got I got more serious about investing when I seen that these what's his name from the NFL took 30% of his
right
contract in Bitcoin. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah,
that's huge.
That's huge.
It says something.
Yeah,
it says something. pretty big, right?
Yeah. That's when I was like, okay. I mean, this dude, I'm worried about investing, $50-100. This dude's putting, you know what I'm saying, like millions into this thing. It's like, okay, this might be, he obviously
And it
knows.
was one of the best moves he made.
Yeah,
It was a huge move for him. He made so much because of that. So much more than his contract.
Right. Yeah.
You're never going to see those gains with USD. USD is just being inflated into the ground.
Right.
And I won't get into that whole side of things. I know this is more tech focused thing, but but that's also why the programmatic monetary policy that is implemented by these coins, by Bitcoin and Divi and Litecoin and all the coins out there, it's open source, it's auditable, and it can't be changed by a single centralized party. Right. That is the biggest deal. Like the fact that Bitcoin is scarce or that Divi deflates yearly and it's in the blockchain, you can see the exact time that it's going to happen. I can't see that. I mean, the US just announced that they're going to, turn this platinum coin into $1 trillion coin just randomly. What? What is wow? It's absurd.
Why stop? Why $1 trillion? Why not a gazillion? You know what I'm saying? Like, why stop?
Right. Just if it doesn't matter, and they just say, oh, we're doing this to service our previous debts. So you're putting yourself in more debt to service other debt. When I take out a credit card to pay off another credit card, the banks don't like that. The government's doing that every day.
Right.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Right.
It's crazy.
You're absolutely right. And, I hate to even think like this, man, but it seems like, I swear it's like the beginning of the end, dude. It just keeps like every day it's just something else. And it's like,
I look at it as a new beginning, man. It's a new beginning.
Yeah.
Right. Something ends, something new is created. And that's what we're seeing with Bitcoin and with cryptocurrency. I mean, that's why I've been focused on decentralized technologies for the past 5 years of my life, professionally, trying to build things that allow people to take control of their money and actually have the keys and the coins in their own hands. It's self-custody is to me, it's still very important. I know there's a lot of people that are like going the centralized route, but our philosophy has always been decentralized because that's how true sovereignty is found, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%. Well, let's talk a little bit about Divi. And,
sure.
We've been here for a few minutes. I don't think we've really talked much about it, but it's all good. I mean, that's what we're here for. So just kind of give us, the lowdown on Divi and, maybe make it a little easier for the viewers and myself to understand, exactly what y'all doing over there.
Sure. I mean, Divi is a decentralized protocol. It's a layer 1 blockchain that we launched in 2018, September 2018. It's basically the project has had the same philosophy since day one, which is just to basically accelerate the adoption of cryptocurrencies through implementing a easy to use, familiarized user experience that's accessible to everyone everywhere. So we actually launched what is now a patent pending technology called Mochi, Masternode one-click cloud installer back in 2018, alongside our desktop wallet back in 2018. And it allowed anybody with any skill level with computing to set up a Masternode at the click of a button. Just literally, boom, you subscribe just like you would to iTunes or Spotify or whatever. But over the past couple of years, we've been working on a mobile wallet, which launched earlier this year, that also integrates the Mochi service, as well as what's called staking vaults, which allow people to, in a decentralized, completely distributed fashion, stake from a mobile device. Doesn't take up any of your data. It's totally set and forget. And it's actually a pretty unique process. It's not delegated proof of stake. The user actually retains the keys and is actually adding the blocks to the blockchain just as they would if they were staking with a full node. I'm really proud of this because we've worked on it for a long time.
Right.
But the ecosystem extends beyond just the earnings of crypto. So it's a full payments ecosystem. We support Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum. We'll have stable coins and a bunch of new coins here soon. We'll be able to swap and do all the things that you would expect in a crypto ecosystem, as well as have those fiat features like on ramps, off ramps, and send and receive of fiat. So it's kind of like a hybrid ecosystem, essentially.
We were talking about the complexity and maybe the intimidation factor of cryptocurrencies for, a large part, of the population. So how would you address or address these people's concerns about crypto being complicated and scary?
So we actually start right from the onboarding, because I feel, and I've been developing apps for almost a decade now. I study UX. I'm not a designer necessarily, a developer, but I've studied UX. I've studied bad UX. I've studied good UX, and it all starts from the onboarding. That's where you lose a majority of people, is just those first few steps. That's where the people, we call it making an investment of their time.
Right.
And time is the most valuable resource. We all know that. So we start right from the onboarding. It's familiarized. You're not writing down seed phrases and all this crazy stuff out of the gate. You can actually set an avatar. You can connect your phone number and email if you so choose. You can keep it anonymous if you want. So it feels like you're just signing up for Venmo or Facebook or whatever it is. And then once you get into the app, we guide the user through, okay, now you might want to back up your seed phrase, those types. What is a seed phrase? And we help them learn about custodying their own funds, which we, of course, again, is part of our philosophy. So like I said, it just starts from that initial first step. And then you can send to your friends with their phone number or their username or whatever. You're never seeing those crazy long strings of addresses or anything like that. And then you can earn and trade and do all the things that you'd like to do. And it's all just one click. It just feels like you've done, basically no work to get to the point that you want to be at. You have to show them the path, because I always hear people say like, oh, it's all about education. We have to just teach everybody. You're not going to get everybody to sit down and learn.
Right.
You have to push them in the right direction. Right. And it has to feel as though they are directing themselves without feeling like they're directing themselves. You know what I mean? It's a very difficult dichotomy to resolve, but it can be done. And we see it in big tech all the time. Right. People have an expectation of how apps should work at this point. And if we're not building to that standard or above it, then it's just not going to work. And we're starting to see better UX in the space. But I feel that, Divi has been and will continue to be one of the leaders in that space.
Right. So, so speaking on that point, what do you feel like you guys are doing different than these other companies that may be in the same, spectrum as what you guys are?
Yeah, I mean, so like I said, we do have the patent pending technologies,
right.
Some pretty unique IP, but a lot of what we've done is very pragmatic in thought. So we go to it. We talked about earlier, what if these 3-letter bodies come after you? These centralized parties start to come after you. We've had a pragmatic approach to compliance. We always say like made easy, done right. That's Divi. So, of course, we do have unique features that set us apart, like the Divi lottery once a week. 11 people actually, if you're staking, win a lottery block. They split like this big block of Divi, which is really fun, and the community gets super excited about it every week. Yeah. Some of the features in the wallet are pretty unique. And in the near future, I don't know what I can say yet, but we're gonna be kind of making some more significant changes to the core of the blockchain to make it a little bit more interoperable is about probably all I can say at the moment. Right. And more accessible to developers and things like that. But I can't get too far into that just now.
All right. Well, you can definitely come back at a later.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah, for sure. And drop a bomb on us here at Tech Times. That'd be that'd be good. Yeah. I'll be excited for that. Yeah. So all right. Something I want to ask you, because this really and I feel like you may be one of the best people to ask this. Do you believe that there will ever be a time when the term investor is not necessarily doesn't necessarily go hand in hand when you think of cryptocurrency? Because it will just, maybe we will evolve from investor to just user.
Right. Well, I mean, let's look at it this way. I guess you can look at it from a few different ways, because you have sort of the SEC's definition of an investor, which somebody buying a cryptocurrency really is not an investor. They're maybe a token holder, a coin holder, because they don't own equity in the company that is behind it. But now we're moving into an ecosystem where there are no companies. They're DAOs, right? They're decentralized autonomous organizations. So will there be equity in a DAO? Like, that doesn't make sense. So it's more about voting share and power and things like that, as far as creating a decentralized ecosystem is concerned. So it is an interesting transition away from this Milton Friedman doctrine. The shareholder is the king. Everything is being done to the benefit of the shareholder and no one else. And back to a more community driven, holistic approach to doing business, that actually benefits the people that are engaging with that business. So I think it's actually a good thing that coin holders are not necessarily investors or shareholders, but instead they benefit from the value of that ecosystem as it grows. It's a unique thing. It's something that we haven't really seen in hundreds of years, where companies or projects benefit the community that they serve. And, of course they still benefit financially from it. But yeah, I think that we are seeing a divergence from like the concept of an investor right now in crypto.
So what is your advice, or what is your perspective on that aspect?
Yeah, it's tough because it can feel abstract, right? It's coins. We call them coins, but it's really just numbers.
Right.
But I think people are probably more used to that than we feel, because most of our money is just numbers, really. I mean, we have a plastic card that we carry around maybe, but that's representative of those numbers. But it's still like a psychological change or transition into this concept of self-ownership, because right now the bank owns those numbers on the page and they guarantee that they'll be there theoretically. And it's hard for people to want to take control of that. And there will be people that don't. And there's plenty of custodial services that allow for that. But you have to question the security of these things, because we even see the largest companies in the world, like Facebook, are easily taken down by a simple error or a simple internal hack or whatever. And we see that all the time, in other centralized services like exchanges, which are basically banks in the crypto space. We see it in DeFi, where, one equal sign can change the whole thing and cause hundreds of millions of dollars to be lost. So I could understand why people would feel insecure about this stuff. But that is why self-custody is so important. Right. Because you're taking control of yourself, right? Which, of course, for a while, you start thinking like, okay, I got to keep track of this seed phrase. Where am I going to keep it? How do I keep redundancies of it? Is it on paper? I don't want to put it on a computer or whatever.
Right.
Once you get past those things, I mean, it is a little easier. But I think, the entry point for most people is going to be Coinbase or Robinhood or whatever it is. But you start to hear these things. I mean, Coinbase just got hacked as well, or admitted that they got hacked like months ago. And you start to wonder, like, maybe it is better to keep it under my bed or in a safe, It's just about maturing the industry, getting people to the point where they understand what they're investing in and how to hold it. But it's good that we have this hybrid option, and there's all these different ways that we can store. And I feel like we can diversify, like have a little bit in the exchange, have a little bit in your ledger. Right. I mean, I keep most of my stuff in ledger, to be honest. But I think, again, it's just a psychological transition. There's no easy way to get to it.
Right. Yeah, it'll come, like everything else, like 2 or 3 generations ago, maybe my grandfather's grandfather would not put money in a bank.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Or carry around a card thinking this is money.
Yeah. But yeah. So yeah, it's just, you're right. It'll just be a psychological change, over time it'll become acceptable, and the norm is getting worn out. That term is just disgusting these days. I don't want to hear anything about the norm, but it will be, just one of those things that, is just, it's there. Like, this is it. And
right.
Yeah, it's super exciting, honestly. And I'm sure you guys are thrilled, you know what I'm saying? Like, you guys got in so early, and now it's kind of, I feel like this is like almost like your baby or something, you know what I mean? Like, you want to see this grow and do well, and It's
I want to see the whole industry grow. I want to see the whole space grow. I mean, we're a part of that space, and I hope that we contribute to the growth of that. You know, we work very, very hard to contribute to that, but it takes an army, you know, and the army is growing rapidly, and that's why, I mean, that's why the big federated bodies, these centralized parties, are getting more serious about it. I won't even say they're, you know, worried about it. Some of them definitely are, but they're taking it more seriously now because they see this is what people want. This will become the norm. This will become commonplace. And eventually in 20 years, it'll be funny looking back and thinking like, I can't believe we even considered, you know, not self-custodying our stuff, you know? It'll take time, and it's amazing to be at the forefront of this in some way, even in a small way. It's a remarkable opportunity for all of us.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%. Well, it's usually at this time I ask, you know, what's next, but you know, you've already told me that, you know, you can't divulge too much information. So, you know,
I can tell you, you know, we are going to Dubai. Actually, when this airs, we'll probably be in Dubai.
Okay. Yeah.
We're going to be launching our Series A there, so I can tell you that. Big fundraising round for the financial or the centralized whatever side of the company, Divi Labs. So we have two sides of it, right? You have the DAO, the Divi Foundation, which is the blockchain. We have Divi Labs, which is a for-profit company. So we're going to be doing a Series A for Divi Labs, try to accelerate a lot of things in the ecosystem, specifically focused on moving more focus into giving grants from the blockchain, from the foundation, to more developers and people who want to build with the ecosystem, and less of the grants going to Divi Labs to build those services and stuff. We'll still build our technologies and things, but we want to see what other people are interested in building. Just keep an eye on us through Dubai, because some of this will make a lot more sense when we start to drop some of those big announcements.
Okay, all right. What is your take on the NFT game?
Personally, I love NFTs. I've had a lot of fun with them, but I'm a realist, man. I can't deny the fact that it's a little absurd. Just to be honest, I think that there's a lot of value in NFTs looking forward. You know, we're looking at the opportunity to do what we've talked about for a long time. And I say we as a collective, you know, industry, which is tokenizing value in many different ways. Right now, it's being utilized sort of for games and profile pictures and things like that. And that's a lot of fun. And there's a lot of money there, a lot of money to be made. And a lot of people are making crazy money on it. But I'm more interested in, you know, what if that NFL player that we talked about, what if he tokenized his contract and made his contract NFTs, and I could invest in the future of his career? Or a movie that's coming out that I'm really excited about. What if I can invest in that and get something back out of that? We're talking about before these decentralized autonomous organizations and how we're not investors anymore. Can I participate in something and receive value from it without, you know, directly investing or knowing everybody in the movie industry or whatever it is? That is really, really interesting to me in NFTs. I think there's a lot of prospect for that technology. I just think people are having fun right now. You know, we're in the middle of a bull market.
Right. Yeah. Well, it kind of took me by surprise, because I feel like, again, like it just burst onto the scene, and then you got like Snoop Dogg and Mike Tyson, and you got and it's like, what is this? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's something else.
Yeah.
And as soon as you get like, I guess it's like, I don't know, it's like memorabilia for these guys, or
right.
know, it's a very
it's digital collectibles.
Yeah.
Right. I love collectibles. I've been collecting, you know, various things since I was a little kid, starting with Pokemon cards back in the day.
Right.
And I collect a lot of physical art now as an adult. I still collect Pokemon cards too, I'll admit. And a lot of different things, toys, action figures. People collect anything.
Right.
Stamps, doesn't matter. If somebody assigns value to something and somebody else sees the value in it, then who's to say that it's not valuable?
Exactly. I can't help but, like, whenever I think about this stuff, like in my mind, I picture like the Matrix binary, you know, type thing. I feel like, you know, what is tangible? You know, like, what is the value of something being tangible? And it's decreasing. You know, those. You know, you don't have to hold something for it to, have value. And, you know, like we were talking earlier, you know, it just takes, it's a psychological shift that has to happen. And
that's correct.
it's exciting, man. It is. It really is.
It is exciting. I mean, I'll tell you what, like I said, I've been collecting art for a long time, and I have, you know, files of, you know, flattened posters and prints and things like that. And I have oil paintings and all this stuff that I have to keep temperature control and this and that, and I have to store it somewhere. NFTs, just in my ETH wallet. I mean, it's kind of attractive from that perspective.
Yeah.
But it is interesting to see this transition. I think the younger generation too, they've already been collecting Fortnite skins and all of this other stuff for so long that it's a natural transition to them. I think it's us old fogies that are having a hard time wrapping their heads around it. But after I started playing around with them, and I've minted a few NFTs, I've built a few smart contracts just out of, you know, my own personal interest. It's pretty cool. It is pretty cool. I think people just need to get into things and learn about them, and that's why we reject everything new, because we don't understand it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, it is definitely the fear of the unknown that really stunts humans from evolving. You know, it's just like, I don't know, man. I don't know how many times I've said it and how many times I've heard it. You know, you want to do this? Like, I don't know, man. I don't know. And then you lose out.
I know. You do. And that's so antithetical to people in crypto. Like, if you got into crypto, you already have this very alternative way of thinking. You know what I mean? You can see sort of the alternative side of finance. You understand monetary policy and inflation and all these very complex things, and you look at it from a different perspective. But when a new thing, like when DeFi started coming along, I was like, well, that's awesome, because that's basically what crypto is meant for. It's, you know, obviating banks and all of the financial services. That's awesome. Of course, it's ridden with issues, but it's 2-3 years old. I mean, expect, right? But we have different perspectives on things. We can always look at something from a negative or positive perspective. But in crypto, you just gotta kind of jump into everything, and not everything's gonna be for you. But at the end of the day, there's so much opportunity there, and all these technologies have a long-term prospect. It's just about seeing that perspective.
Right. So that's kind of what Divi's doing, like really facilitating, you know, people that may be weary. So like, you know, if, you know, like me, you know, I can't speak for anyone but myself. And, you know, I want, you know what I'm saying, to invest, but it's that thing, like, I don't know, man, like that, you know, that creeping doubt.
The anxiety.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah, it is. It's borderline anxiety, you know, like, you know, I'm not a very anxious person, but there is that feeling like, I don't know, dude, like, you know, I work for my money, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, it's hard to get past, but I think, I mean, that is why, you know, that is our philosophy. And, you know, we're looking at how to make DeFi easier. Because for me, like DeFi and interacting with smart contracts and bridges and things like that, not super complex, but I've also been in the space since like 2013, you know, and I've used some really old, you know, technologies in this space. For somebody that's just getting into it, this stuff's very daunting, and there's so much to learn. People just want to be able to like press a couple buttons, know that their money's safe and that they're earning some money, and feel like they're part of a community. I feel like that's really what crypto's about. And that's what Divi's about. It's just building it so that it's accessible to anybody. You don't have to be in the space since 2013. You can jump in today. And we see it. We see a lot of people that come to us are retirees, you know, you know, older professionals and things like that, because they understand. They're like, okay, well, this feels a lot better. This philosophy I can get behind. This community's, you know, mature. Those types of things are going to become more and more important. You're always going to have the degen side of it. You're always going to have the apes just jumping into every DeFi protocol that gets rugged or whatever, but it matures over time. We want to be part of making it accessible as it matures.
So if, you know, for anyone watching, or, you know, how do we do this? Like, where do we go? How do we get in there?
Yeah, by all means, hit up our website, diviproject.org, if you want to learn about the foundation, diviwallet.com if you want to get the wallet app. It's available. Actually, by the time this airs, it'll probably be available pretty much worldwide. So check your app stores, Google Play and Apple Store, App Store, whatever. And then on social media, at Divi Project, just all of the social medias are the same thing. We love chatting on Telegram and Discord, so come join the community and ask some questions.
Awesome. Well, Well, thanks a lot, Nick. I really appreciate the time today, and you really, you know, helping me and a lot of viewers, you know, understand and, you know, introducing us to Divi. I think is something that is extremely needed at this time, you know, to help, like I said, accelerate.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate the opportunity to come chat with you, and I'd love to do it again sometime.
Yeah, for sure. When you know, when you can divulge more information about that, you know, that Project X, you know, that y'all, yeah, for sure.
You got it.
Yeah, we're here for it.
Sure thing.
All right, brother. Thank you. And we will see you guys on the next Tech Times exclusive.